Welcome to the Monday Method. I'm your host, Liz Mayer, life, career, and business coach, and I am obsessed with helping you create the life you love so you stop living for the weekends and start loving your Mondays. This show is dedicated to you women who do it all, from building careers to building families to becoming the version of yourself you love. This show provides you with the tools to get you off the hamster wheel of burnout so you can give what matters in your life the best of you, not the rest of you. Are you ready to create a life so good you look forward to Mondays? Then let's go. Well, hi, friend. Welcome to the show. As I record this episode, it is already mid-January. Actually, it is exactly January 15th. And some of you may feel that it is, in fact, the 32nd day of January. Specifically, if you are in the thick of that new year focus where you're trying to create lasting change. Maybe it's a new habit that you're trying to pick up. Maybe you're trying to stop a bad habit, or maybe you're going after a larger change. Maybe it's a relationship change or a career change, or just get your life moving in a direction aligned with what is on your vision board or what is written down in those growth goals that you set for yourself. Now, if this feeling of being in the thick of it, being maybe a little overwhelmed, being almost maybe a little unsettled hasn't hit you yet, give it maybe plus or minus a few weeks because you might start to feel maybe a little over that goal, which felt so inspiring just a few weeks back. What I want you to know is that this draining feeling or this feeling of conflict is not you. It does not mean that anything is wrong with you. It is actually completely normal as you encounter a natural emotional cycle of change. So, today, my friend, that's exactly what I'm going to cover. I'm going to go through this whole researched model of the emotional change cycle, what it means to you based on where you are in your journey, and tips to enduring each of these phases so you can handle all the feels and keep moving. But before I get into talking more at you, so many of you have asked me about how to be successful at work and in life without feeling burnt out. And I've seen so many make the mistakes of actually creating endless to-do lists or just taking on more work only to end up feeling exhausted, delaying progress, and dreading the start of a new week. If this sounds like you, head on over to my website at lizmayercoaching.com and get access to a free video that breaks down how to create personal and professional success without burnout. So check that out. It's free. It's for you. It's a nice little mini course that I created specifically to help you get more informed on how to create the life you want. Okay, back to the meat and potatoes of the show today. Let's start by getting into what change itself means, okay? Any change. Change is more than just making decisions. Change is more than just taking actions. Change is more than just having these small, tiny habits. Change is an emotional journey. And what that means to you is you are going to feel specific emotions as you move on your path to change. And understanding this journey is key to staying aligned to your goals because whatever we are aware of, we can manage. Now, you are a very smart, strategic woman, and I know you love to know what's coming next. And when it comes to growth or any progress on a goal you've chosen, you want to be prepared. One way to prepare yourself is to not just plan around what you're going to do, but what emotions you are going to feel and how to manage these feelings so you remain productive in the pursuit of your goal. Now, I know this sounds actually maybe a little bit counterintuitive to some of you because we are in a world where we are told to keep your feelings to yourself, right? Especially for those of you who are working in corporate settings, you might have been told, hey, don't be so emotional about this. Or you might be encouraged to deal with your emotions and then, you know, show up when you have handled all those. Okay. And there is nothing wrong with giving that coaching to how you present and how you show up professionally. But when it comes to dealing with yourself, when it comes to managing your growth and your development, you actually have to get into those feelings. You have to see them, you have to bring them to light, and you have to use them as a navigation point to continue growth. Okay. This is really critical because one of the things that I've learned on my personal journey is oftentimes when we are afraid of moving forward, we're not necessarily afraid of something happening out there. Oftentimes we're afraid of what this feeling means. What does a feeling of overwhelm mean? What does a feeling of self doubt mean? And oftentimes you might be avoiding things or doing things just to avoid a feeling. Okay, so let's get into the emotional cycles of change. So, the emotional cycles of change, it comes from these two bros, okay? Dr. Don Kelly and Daryl Connor. Okay, they are organizational change experts and they developed this emotional cycle of change to help individuals and teams understand the psychological and the emotional experiences involved in making significant changes. Their research focused on the human side of transformation. Really, they dug in and they learned how emotions influence motivation, decision making, and most importantly, perseverance. They created this framework from their studies, and they basically highlight that change is not just a logical process, but an emotional one. Surprise, surprise. Obviously, you are a human being with emotions that are meant to be acknowledged. What these gentlemen did is they identified a predictable sequence of emotional stages that you experience when making significant changes. And at each stage, if you understand these, you can better manage these feelings with greater intentionality, and you ultimately can be prepared for them so that you can keep that growth fire burning bright versus burning out. So, I'm going to take you through all five stages. First, I'm going to share them, and then I'm going to break each of them down and share tips on how you can prepare for each. So, the five stages are uninformed optimism, informed pessimism, the valley of despair, informed optimism, and success and fulfillment. And as you're thinking about these stages, you literally can think of almost a bell curve, right? Where you start off and it's very quickly going into that uninformed optimism, and you're heading up and you're up on this high hill. And then you start going downwards towards informed pessimism. You're at the deepest point of the valley of despair. And then you start evolving and coming out of that valley into informed optimism, where you reach the peak of the mountain, which is success and fulfillment. Okay. That's how I want you to think about these things. Literally an emotional roller coaster. All right, let's dive into each stage of the cycles. So, stage one, uninformed optimism. This is the honeymoon phase of change. You're excited, you're hopeful, and you're full of big ideas about what this new change and what this goal will look like once it hits. Okay. Let me give you an example. Maybe you have decided that this is the year that you are going to explore different roles outside of your current employer. Okay. And you're going to go and you're going to play big. You're going to go after a new title. You're going to go after new money. Okay. You're all fired up. Write this down in your diary. You have a vision board. You get excited and you start to think about all of these new companies you want to work for. Maybe you even start thinking about individuals that you know that you can talk to, or recruiters that you should reach out to. And you are really just in this state of optimism. You have this like shoulder pad energy. And this is actually the best part, right? Because who does not love to feel that feeling? At this phase, if you had a mantra, or if you wanted to capture this phase in like a thought, it would be all you see is opportunity, right? You literally are looking at the growth, you're looking at what this means. And again, it feels very inspiring and energizing. Okay. The key tip here is obviously enjoy this emotional state and take advantage of this excitement. And obviously, don't just think about the goal, but get grounded on a few actions you're going to need to do to move forward. Okay. And here's the other thing I want to really emphasize in this phase is it's not just about the actions I want you to consider. I actually want you to consider the obstacles you may face. I know I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer here, but I really want you, as you start to construct your plan, to think about what are the challenges you might face and how are you going to deal with them. And I want you to do that while you're in this state of high vibe energy. And I know nobody wants boogers on their vision board, but this one area, if you forego, it's actually going to set you behind when you get to those other stages. Okay. So while you're thinking about that new business card and your name on it, I want you to put together an action plan of what you think you need to do, which you probably have already done. But then I want you to write down the roadblocks that you're going to face and a strategy or an action for each of those roadblocks. So you are really just thinking in terms of preparation and you're starting to mentally prepare for the next phases. So, for example, obviously, if you're looking for a new job, you're going to need to get your resume ready. You're going to need to apply to jobs. But let's get real. You're also going to need to network. Okay. And that means you're going to need to reach out to people and you are going to have to interview. And so, just by thinking of those actions, maybe some of you have already started to feel that, ooh, and starting to think of what comes with those actions, right? Potential obstacles like maybe you don't hear back. Um, Maybe obstacles like you don't have time, you run out of time. Maybe an obstacle like handling rejection. Maybe an obstacle like, oh gosh, combating those feelings of I've never done this before as you prep for those interviews. So I want you to ask yourself how you're going to handle the obstacles. And it's really about just preparing yourself. So, in that example, maybe you have a long list of new companies to target. Maybe you commit to connecting with 5 people per day. You block your calendar, maybe first thing in the morning, to do all the prep work and the outreach. And, maybe you have a special saying that you embrace on those tough days. Okay. So, for some of you who might still be in this phase of uninformed optimism, you might be like, please don't kill my vibe. But I'm telling you, if you are there, or if you're starting to feel like you're teetering into the next phase, it is never a bad time to take a step back, look at your action plan, and start to put an obstacle plan together because you're going to need it. You're going to need it in particular in phase two, which is informed pessimism. Okay. Informed pessimism is when the novelty wears off. Okay. Think of this phase to when you get back from your honeymoon. For those of you who are married or have been married, okay, your wedding is behind you. So there's no more party to plan. There's no more fabulous beach time honeymoon. There's no more vacation. Okay. There's no more presents, maybe. It's you, it's your husband, it's your joint checking account, it's Home Depot, Target, it's work, it's meal planning. There's no more hits of dopamine coming. And let's just face it, you might feel a bit bored, or maybe you actually, start to feel like, okay, what do I do now? Okay. And I use the honeymoon as an example, like the post honeymoon, but really, when you think about informed pessimism from an emotional perspective, this is when you might feel the urge to maybe back up on some of the actions you are taking. Maybe you feel the urge to second guess the change. Like, did I really want this? Maybe you just feel a sense of ennui, a sense of maybe even dread when you need to come and do those tasks because the newness has worn off, right? You don't get that dopamine hit. So you're realizing at this phase that change or growth can be harder or it can take longer. Okay. This is the phase where you might ask yourself, is this worth it? Or do I really have to do this every day? Or do I really have to um, do this right now? And the stage is critical because this is the point where you are most likely to talk yourself into quitting. In this phase, the first key strategy is to remember your why. I know that you hear this all the time, but it is truly important that you discern if you are doing something out of interest or out of commitment. Okay. Really check in, look back at those goals, look back at the vision boards. Why did you want the change you said you wanted? Right? Why now? Really keeping that why front and center is important. The other thing to do is to go back to that obstacle plan and make sure you're handling the obstacles in a productive way. Okay. So, in the example that you're looking for a new job, maybe you reached out and you tried to network with 5 people and you really only got 2 meetings in the last month. So, get back to work and determine, hey, maybe it's your expectations that need change, right? People are busy. Maybe it's the type of people you're reaching out to. Maybe it's how you're reaching out to them, right? So when you feel discouraged and you're not necessarily seeing the momentum you want to see, it's time to go back to that obstacle plan and identify what strategies you already picked and keep moving forward. Usually at this phase, what's often helpful is adjusting your timeline. Okay. So think about it this way. If you said, hey, my goal is that it's January 1st, and by March 2nd, I want 6 interviews, and it's just not happening, maybe it's not your total goal. Maybe it's your timeline, right? Or maybe this is where you say, hey, those actions, they're not doing what I thought they'd do. And maybe you just make some small tweaks. What I want to encourage here that you do is that maybe you make small tweaks to the actions. Maybe you make tweaks to your expectations. But what I don't want you to change is your vision, right? And your growth and how you're thinking about your goal. Like all things in life, this stage is temporary. So it's important that you acknowledge your frustration, but focus on that big picture, and you're going to need it because the next phase is the valley of despair. Yes, the valley of despair. It's the hardest part. It's about as fun as it sounds. This is when feelings of doubt, of overwhelm, maybe even guilt can creep in. Okay. It's the negative emotions. It is literally called the valley of despair. It's not fun. It's not supposed to be. Okay. So, in phase two, you had informed pessimism, right? Because you actually have been doing and you've been going through the motions and things are getting stalled, or maybe things aren't working out exactly how you want them to work out in whatever way. So in phase two, you were more about maybe questioning like the actions, or maybe you're sensing dread, or maybe you're like, oh, do I really want to spend this time? Or or maybe you're questioning your need. In the valley of despair, you're questioning yourself. Ugh. You might even be doubting your self worth. You might think, maybe I'm not cut out for this. And for working women, you are juggling a lot. Okay. You have a lot going on at home, you got a lot going on at work. And the pressure that an additional goal or any sort of change can create without getting that hit of progress can feel unbearable. Okay. Specifically, if you feel that you're exchanging your time and your energy in one area for growth in another. Okay. For example, if you're looking for that new job, you may need to spend the early mornings working on your resume and doing that research or perfecting your pitch for an interview instead of going to the gym, right? Or instead of sleeping in, or maybe instead of listening to your favorite podcast. Okay. So you are exchanging, work for maybe work or progress in another area. But here's the good news: the valley is also where the growth happens. It's the whole point. I'm sure you've all heard of the hero's journey, and we all know that there is no growth without pain. Okay. This moment, this time, regardless of how long it lasts, is the bridge that is required to get into the new city of your life. Okay. Where you look forward to Mondays as much as you look forward to a shirtless Ryan Gosling. This is the phase where you need to ask for help. I know you need to be shameless in getting support. Just let that soak in, because a lot of you are so damn efficient and so damn productive and autonomous that you forget to ask others to support you. Now, obviously, you can be leaning into friends, family, your partner. These individuals are critical to pitching in on listening, encouraging you, helping with responsibilities. Beyond this, though, having a coach who is in the trenches with you can give you space to manage your emotions and to manage your progress while maintaining your vision. Oftentimes, you feel guilty about shouldering doubt, right? You don't want to take that weight and put it on others, like your friends and your family, because you might be saying they're dealing with stuff too. And you don't want to weigh them down, or maybe you don't want, their vision of you to be hurt or damaged. And that's why a outside party is so important. As a coach, it's my job to create space for the valley of despair and also keep you moving forward and getting you back on the happy train, because the happy train is getting ready to leave the station. Yes, that's right. We're on to the next phase, which is informed optimism. Ah! Yes, here we are. Informed optimism. If you stick it out, if you don't quit, if you put your trust more into you, into your vision, and you are calling on your growth, you are calling on your vision versus your fears, you're going to be moving into this stage. This is where you start to see progress. Maybe you get a few nibbles at your resume. Maybe you get a second round of interviews. Maybe you reach out to the CEO of that company that you've been eyeing and she returns your email and you get a meeting. Whatever happens, you realize that the effort you've put into this is worth it. Okay. Now, here's the thing I want you to keep in mind. In this phase, it doesn't mean that you have reached your final destination. Remember, you're on the happy train. Okay. In this phase, you start to feel optimistic. You start to feel hope again. Okay. You've left the valley of despair and you're heading out. Okay. This is critical where you need to celebrate your progress. Okay. No matter how small. Recognizing your wins is going to fuel you to keep going. Think about this phase as capturing learnings, really starting to change your perspective. Really, the outcomes that you get from doing the work, even if the outright goal has not been yet met, are starting to materialize. So I know I always used to hear the saying like, "Oh, it's not the goal, it's not the prize, it's the journey," or like that Miley Cyrus song, like, "It's the climb." That's what you get out of this phase, and I know a lot of us who might be impatient, myself included, might be like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I just wanna get to the end, fast forward," but this is where you start to change. You start to rewire yourself. You are no longer that person who was sitting with the vision board or with the goal because you have moved so far beyond that, even if your outside circumstances haven't completely changed. So you have to celebrate, okay? You high five yourself about gaining confidence. Maybe you rejoice as you start to make more connections. Um, you look at the kick ass progress you've made and you really let yourself feel proud. And maybe you even realize that the things that used to get under your skin, you do not care about. Okay. You are not tethered to that old ball and chain of how you used to be. Okay. And I'm not just saying celebrate as like a term to say, yeah, good job, pat on the back. I am intentionally like wanting you to think of celebrate as like celebrate. I want you to throw yourself a little party, okay? And this can be weekly. Buy a little present for yourself. Take a day off every now and then. Go see a movie. Get a pedicure, get a massage, go to your favorite coffee place, go on a date, meet a friend, do whatever you need to do because you need to keep yourself happy. You need to keep yourself fueled. And this is something that as you continue to start growing into that new version of you, you start to really create that energy of really high vibe emotions. And that really takes you to the next and final phase, which is success and fulfillment. Okay. Success and fulfillment is the payoff. This is when your goal has materialized. You got the new job you wanted, you got the offer you wanted, you achieved your goal, and you feel gratitude. You feel love. You feel proud. You feel joy. You feel peace. You feel all of those positive emotions that come from the sense of accomplishment. And in this phase, enjoy it, celebrate some more, and really take time to reflect on your journey. Because knowing you are going to create another goal for yourself, of course, you know that you've gone through that valley and you have a whole new cycle of feelings that you've endured and you've made it through. So I hope this helps you. Bringing all of this here content to you is all about creating a life you love, a life where Mondays are your favorite. Here are a few ways to bring all that I just shared home to you so you can apply this wherever you are in your change cycle. Number one, always identify where you are. And that is as simple as asking yourself, how are you feeling? And butting up those feelings to those cycles I just shared. Really just take a moment to reflect. What stage of emotional cycle are you in right now? Knowing where you are is really important, but also remember that where you are is not who you are. It's simply a point, manage it, move on. The second thing is to build a support system. Change is so much easier when you're not alone. If you're serious about growth, get serious about making investments in your growth. And that means investing in a support structure. Get yourself the help you need at home. Get yourself a coach who can hold the space you need through these emotional phases. And then lastly, commit to consistency, not perfection. Progress isn't about being perfect every day. It's about showing up. It's about really proving your commitment by consistency. Small actions can lead to big results over time. Keep going. So, my friend, wherever you are in your journey, know this: you do have the power to create the life you want. It starts with understanding your emotions, embracing the emotions, working the process, and staying committed to your growth. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with a friend or leave a review. And you can find me on Instagram at LizMayerCoachMe or LizMayerCoaching.com. And until next time, keep building a life where you look forward to Mondays. Bye, friends. Well, hey, friend. Thank you for spending time with me. As a thank you for spending your very limited, precious time, I want to offer you access to a free masterclass on how to create personal and professional success without burnout. You can access the link in the show notes or head over to LizMayerCoaching.com and click on the link to access this free masterclass. Thanks again for spending time with me, and I cannot wait for you to love your Mondays. See you, friend.